when you come up with it, when you say it, when you hear it, it awakens your witchy self. It takes that inner witch and makes her dance and love and scream and, give you a big hug from the inside. Okay. So it has to awaken your intuition. It has to awaken your witchy energy. So it has to do that. Okay. Don't pick a boring name. Pick one that makes you excited. Pick one that makes you happy to tell other people if you want to tell them. Like, oh, hi, I'm Agatha Moonraven. And they're like, oh shit, that's a fun name. And you're like, yeah, I know, right? Like, you're proud. It makes you proud and it makes your witchy heart sing. Hey witches, welcome to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy, a magical living podcast for the busy witch. I'm Morgan, eclectic witch of almost 25 years, Avalon priestess, and busy witch. Here we'll talk all things witchy, from current metaphysical happenings to my busy witch tips and tricks, and everything in the in-between. This podcast is my personal journey, filled with my knowledge, opinions, and unique way of looking at the world. Join me as I weave the magical and the mundane in every episode. Hey witches, welcome back to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy. I am Morgan. Now, a question I get asked a lot by beginner witches, which someone on my TikTok in a comment called themselves a new broom, and I fucking love that. So, especially over on Two Witches Talking, my podcast with Megan Winkler, we now refer to beginner witches as new brooms, because I love it. But a question I get asked a lot by new brooms or by people getting to know me is, do I have a magical name? So today I will be answering that question. And then I'm going to be diving into magical names overall. Okay. What they are, why you might want one, when and where to use one, and even a few fun tips on how to create one. It's a tongue tied here. I am recording this a little bit later in the week and the day than I normally do. So you just have to bear with me. Today is a Friday, and I am ready for the weekend, even though I know this does not air until Wednesday. All right. So I'm going to start out with a story. Okay. We'll set the scene for you all. It is 2002. I am 21 years old. We have just moved to England because my husband was in the Air Force. And I decided that since we got stationed in England, I would go ahead and dive into paganism, because that is where England is where a lot of the older religions, are originated. But England itself has such a rich, long history that, you've got to think about Stonehenge. The Druids were there like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So that's when I began exploring paganism for real. And I found out that the town that we were in, the little village we lived in, had a moot, which is a word for an eclectic group of pagans that gather together. So I found out that they had like this little class and it was being taught at somebody's house. Well, the person's house was literally 1 block from me. So that was my first introduction into the moot. They are amazing people. I still keep in contact with a lot of them to this day. But I was introduced into the moot just with this little class. So then they were like, oh, once a month we meet up at the pub and it's like a big group of us. I'm like, all right. So it's my first moot meeting. It's night in England, and I'm standing outside the pub. I can't remember. I think I was a smoker at the time. Don't hold it against me. For those who don't smoke. But I think I was a smoker at the time. I may not have been. I don't remember. But I remember I was standing outside with a group of people waiting to go into the pub. And this older gentleman, when I say older, so at the time I was 21, he was probably in his late 50s, mid to late 50s, I would say, maybe early 60s. Anyway. And he comes up and everybody hugs him and, oh, John's here and da-da-da. And he looks at me. And so you have to understand, this man is wearing fur. And he has long, just like hair that's just crazy. And he has a beard or like a goatee and a mustache type thing. He looks like a caveman. Okay. He's wearing this fur. He's just he looks like a caveman. And this is my first introduction like to a large group of pagans. And they come up and they're like, "Oh, this is John." And he introduces like, "Oh, you're new." And I'm like, "Yes." And he says, "Hello, I'm John the God." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" Because again, British accent, and which I'm not even going to attempt to do. But he says, "I'm John the God." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he shakes my hand and he goes, "What's your name?" And I said, "Morgan." And he looks at me and he goes, "Is that your real name?" And I said, "Yes." And he stands back and he looks at me very curiously. And he starts to tilt his head from side to side. And then he kind of looks down and then looks up, but not in a creepy way, you know? And he gets this big smile on his face and he goes, "Yes, yes, you are Morgan." He goes, "You know, she's Queen of the Fairies." And I'm like, "Uh-huh." And he's like, "Yeah, your parents did well." And I'm like, "Thank you." And he just goes about his business, goes into the pub. He says he's going to go get a pint. And that's it. That was my first introduction to John the God. So the reason that they call him John the God is because he was the facilitator of a moot in a nearby village. And apparently when John was there at the moot, everything was peaceful. If John missed a moot meeting, all hell would break loose. And this happened more than one time. So I was told the story that they began calling him John the God because whenever he was around, there was just this calm, peaceful presence for everyone. And then when he wasn't there, chaos ensued. And I loved it. And for 3 years, we were stationed in England for 3 years. Anytime John was at a moot meeting or at a gathering, if we would do rituals and stuff, I always sat with him. He was very much like an older uncle or a father figure, a grandfather figure, to me. I absolutely adored him. But that was our first interaction. Okay. So to answer the question at the beginning of the podcast that I introduced, or what I get asked a lot by beginner witches is, do I have a magical name? I personally do not know. This is partly because the more that I dive into my own spirituality, my own path, resonating with the Avalonian tradition, and now having Morgan Le Fay as one of my deities, I agree with John the God. I think my parents did pretty well naming me Morgan. That is my government name, which is another question I get asked a lot, because as the face of Ink Goddess Creations, my business, or, as a witch, if people don't know about me, they don't know my backstory, they don't know anything, that is a question I get asked a lot to this day when I introduce myself in witchy settings, like, "Oh, hi, my name is Morgan." They're like, "Is that your real name?" And yes, it is my real name. It is on my birth certificate, it is on my driver's license. I get asked that a lot. Okay. So, I have come across in 25 years of being a witch, a lot of people that do have magical names, which is why, even though I don't have one, I wanted to talk about it on the podcast, because it is extremely common. It is also common to not have one. So if you're sitting here like, "I don't have a magical name, do I need one?" You don't. Okay. I'm just going to throw that out there right here at the beginning of the podcast. Okay. But that's what I want to talk about today, because I want to give you all the information on magical names, especially with it. As we get closer to Samhain, for a lot of people, Samhain is the Celtic New Year. It's the Celtic Witches' New Year. Okay. So it can be the beginning of a magical spiritual year for you. Okay. So if you wanted to do that, and let's say you're finding this podcast, or you've been listening and you're like, "I don't know if I'm a witch or if I want to take that step," and you finally decide, "Okay, I want to be a witch. I want to declare it. I want to claim it for myself." Then Samhain is a beautiful time to do a dedication ritual to your path, to yourself. And if choosing a magical name is something that resonates with you, then I want you to have all the information to be able to do that, especially during this gorgeous time of year where a lot of people are finding witchcraft. A lot of people are exploring witchcraft deeper. So that's what I'm going to give you all today. Lots of information. We're going to start off with what is a magical name and why would you want one? Okay. So I should probably take a step back. So I'm going to use a couple of examples as we move through this, or maybe an example, just because it's a very famous one. There is an author out there named Silver Ravenwolf. Yes, Silver Ravenwolf. That is her name. She has written a shit ton of books. If you are a beginner witch, I do highly recommend To Ride a Silver Broomstick is the first in the series. And then, so that's like a beginner witchcraft book. It's a beginner Wiccan book. So that is another thing to differentiate is I believe Silver Ravenwolf is a Wiccan. But yeah, so, and there is a difference, but that's for another podcast. If I don't know if I've ever done that podcast on the difference between Wicca and witchcraft. Anyway, off subject, sorry. Okay, so Silver Ravenwolf has written a shit ton of books. Okay. To Ride a Silver Broomstick is the first one. To Stir a Magic Cauldron is the second one. And To Light a Sacred Flame is the third one. Or I may have the second and the third one reversed. Anyway, that's a magical name. Silver Ravenwolf is a magical name. That I would venture to guess. Look, I didn't do research on this. I just assumed. I would venture to guess that her driver's license does not say Silver Ravenwolf. Okay, so it is a pen name, yes, but it is also a magical name. So if you are a beginner witch and you start to get into like Facebook groups or you get into a coven or like an online coven and people are like, oh, please call me this, then that's their magical name. Okay. So a magical name is one that you only use in magical or witchy circles or practices. Okay. They are, okay. Sorry. I couldn't read my own handwriting in my notes. Holy shit. There are emotional and energetic benefits of creating a magical name. Okay. Number one, having a magical name separates your sacred self from your mundane self. And while I do, teach and preach so much that you can weave magic into your mundane life, I understand that for a lot of people, okay, let's take a step back. We're going to go on a tangent. If you're new here, hi, I'm Morgan. We go on lots of fucking tangents. Okay, I got to get situated for it too if you're watching on YouTube. All right. If you're a witch, if you feel like you're a witch, you're a witch. You're a witch when you are sitting at your desk at work, crunching numbers. You are a witch when you're taking a shower. You are a witch when you are sleeping. You're a witch when you are performing spells. You're a witch when you're standing out under the full moon, absorbing its energy. You are a witch when you are yelling and screaming at your ancestors, okay? Or your guides for not giving clear signs, okay? You're a witch, all right? But, and while I do preach a lot about weaving magic into your everyday life, because there are witches out there that never do a formal spell or ritual. They just constantly do little things to weave magic into their mundane. All right. And that's a witch. There are witches out there that only do spells and rituals. And so they have a whole setup or a whole mindset that they go into to perform magic. No witches are more witches than any other witches. I really hope that made sense. And if it sounded really cool, it's going to be used as a soundbite. No witch is any more or less powerful than any other witch. And it does not matter if you are an in the broom closet witch or you have a podcast about witchcraft and have been practicing for 25 years out in public. Okay. No witch is any more witch than any other witch. Okay. Say that 10 times fast. All right. So now that I've said all of that, let's go back. For some people, there is a division, okay? For some people, you do want a division. You personally want a division. You want to step into your witchiness to perform a spell or a ritual. Or you want, it's like an energetic boundary, which is I'll go into in number 2, but this can help you. be in more of a witchy aligned energetic space. If you have, like, if you are Sarah in your real life, but you are Sarah of the Woods, which you use your own name, or you are, you know, Wolf Child Luna. I wanted to say Lovegood because I watch Harry Potter. Anyway, it doesn't matter, okay? If you're Sarah in real life and then you want a magical name that makes you feel witchy as fuck, and when you step into your magical name, or when someone calls you by your magical name, it lights up all of your witchy cells. That's what I mean about it creates, like, it separates your sacred self from your mundane self. It awakens that inner witch, okay? And that's why a lot of people do it, is to differentiate their mundane self from their magical empowered self. And that's perfectly fine. If you want the two to be the same, then you want the two to be the same. If you want them to be separate and you want to step into your witchcraft practice and into your magical self, then that's fine too. Okay. It's whatever resonates with you. So that's the first reason why it would be an energetic benefit of having a magical name. The second one is that a magical name offers energetic protection, okay? This is probably the main reason why a lot of witches choose to go by a magical name when they are in a witchcraft setting or when they are performing magic. You would only give out your magical name to people that you trust, which keeps your witchy self and your energy protected from, like, psychic vampires or from people casting against you. Because a lot of hexes, curses, things like that are done, they can be done as easily with just someone's name. So if you have a magical name and you only do magic under your magical name, and that person, you have an enemy, you have someone casting against you, doesn't know your magical name, then what they're doing isn't going to reach your witchy energetic self as easily if they just write down your government name on a piece of paper and then try to do stuff with that. Do you see how it's like? So it almost becomes like a protective barrier around your witchy energy, which is what people can use, what psychic vampires can, like, siphon off of you. I mean, psychic vampires can just siphon off of your energy at work too. But, you know, like, you're protecting your witchy self. You're protecting your witchy energy. You're protecting your energy, you know? So that this is why you would only give out your magical name to people you 100% trust. Or we'll talk about it in a few minutes. You may have what I call a Rumpelstiltskin name. We'll get to that. Okay. And then the third reason is you want to reclaim your magical self. Okay, a magical name helps you take back your power as a witch and claim it. This is now your witch identity. And that is very empowering. So like I was saying, with Samhain coming, if you wanted to do a dedication ritual to your witchcraft path and almost be reborn as a witch, then you would use a magical name, or you could choose to use a magical name and be like, from here forward, my magical name is, and this is my witchy identity. Okay. All right. Flipping the page. So next I have, and look, we have some storms rolling in or something. So the lighting, if you're watching on YouTube, the lighting is all over the place. It's fun. I have a ring light, but it doesn't work in this room. It doesn't work. Anyway, so when and where do you use a magical name? In ritual. So 100% in ritual, you are going to, so let's say you're doing this rededication ritual or rebirth ritual on Samhain, and you're declaring yourself a witch. You're declaring yourself, this is your witchy name. Okay. You would then contact your guides, your deities, whatever, and be like, this is my witchy identity. This is my witchy name. This is how I want to be talked to or referenced moving forward. Or you would let your guides know, you know, if you are talking to my witchy self, please talk to whatever your witchy name is. I really wish that now, thinking back, that I would have come up with some really fun ones to just kind of sparse and throw out here, but my brain's not clicking today. Normally my brain will click and I can spit out stuff. Like I even have some books over here on a shelf. And so I'm like, I'm kind of like trying to pull off of names from the books or the author, and I got nothing. I got nothing, man. It's just one of those days. Okay. So you would use your, anytime you're performing magic, anytime you're in a ritual, you would be using your magical name. You would also use it in your Book of Shadows or grimoire. So like at the beginning of it, like this is the magical spell book of, Agatha Moonraven, whatever, Um, in covens or spiritual circles where you trust people. And look, we have a lot of people in the Ink Spirit Coven. I know their name because the name on the order comes through. But when they join the coven, they introduce themselves as their magical name and they're like, please call me this. And we all do. Like, that's your name. When you come into the Ink Spirit Coven, which is my online coven, when you come into Circle, you get to like your email has to stay there, which no one else has access to your email, but it's how I take because if you come in and your name is Jane Doe and that's like your legal government name, but all of a sudden Agatha Moonraven shows up, I have to figure out, if you cancel your membership, who the hell Agatha Moonraven is. So I can see your email address, but no one else can. And so we have a lot of witches come in, and when they do their introduction, they're like, my name is Agatha Moonraven. We're just going to go with that one for the rest of the fucking podcast. Okay. So they say, I'm Agatha Moonraven. And, and everyone just, that's your name and with your profile picture. So people just go, okay, that's Agatha. We got it. And, that's a way that you would use it. So either online circles, or if you have an actual like in-person coven, but only with people that you trust. But the benefit to online, it's to also keep your identity safe. If, you're venturing into maybe some questionable circles and you just have like your Facebook name as your magical name, then people aren't, if anything happens, people can't come after you, like your personal identity. All they know you by is your magical name. So just as much as it works energetically the other way, so that people can't energetically like attack you if they don't know your magical name, a magical name can be used for anonymity. I think that's how you pronounce it, to remain anonymous online and to keep your mundane secret. Okay. And then protection spells to keep your witch identity energy highest self protected. So this is where you would cast, of course you would want to cast a protection spell for you, like your person, your family. But let's say you wanted an extra layer. So you would say, no one can cast spells against me or my witchy energy self, like, Agatha Moonraven. And so you would clearly, so that adds it's almost like a secret. If you don't give out this name, then you have a super secret barrier around you. Like any spells cast at my government name will bounce off because, I am protected by the energy of Agatha Moonraven, which is, your witchy name. Okay. There can be levels, all different types of levels of witchy names. From a name that you go by in any witchy setting. For example, Silver Ravenwolf, who is an author. She goes by Silver Ravenwolf everywhere. Like it's on her books. It's on her website. It's, that is her name to the public. That is her name to the witchy world. Okay. To what I call a Rumpelstiltskin name. And a Rumpelstiltskin name is exactly how it sounds. Only you and your guides and your deities know what your magical name is. You don't tell a single human. Your spouse, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, brother, sister, they may not know your magical name. You could be in a coven and they don't even know your magical name. Okay, that's why I call it a Rumpelstiltskin name. Is because the chances of someone guessing your name are non-existent unless they know about you. And they happen to know that, like, oh, for example, what I say, Agatha Moonraven, they know that you love the moon and they know that you love ravens and they know that you love Agatha all along. And then they put it all together, But so yes, you can have a name where every single magical setting you're introducing yourself as your magical name and not your government name. And then over here, you've got your Rumpelstiltskin name. So like that's the two, if you're going to have a magical name, that's the two extreme ends. And it lies so many different places in between. Like I said, you can tell your online coven your magical name. You can tell maybe just a few people that you practice with in real life. You can tell everyone. You can tell no one. But that there's like a sliding scale in between Silver Ravenwolf and Rumpelstiltskin. Okay. And you can have your name be anywhere in the middle there. Okay. Using a witchy name, and I definitely want people to understand this, using a witchy name is not about hiding. It is about establishing clarity in a magical or a magical boundary that defines your energy, your intention, and your power. While there are benefits to having a magical name that can include hiding your witchy self from those who could cause you harm, or hiding your government name and your real identity in witchy settings. And that could be considered, I wouldn't say hiding, I would say protection. But this is not about hiding behind a name. This is about declaring, this is who I am in a magical setting. This is my magical energy. And, moving forward, if you're going to interact with me in a magical setting, I prefer to be called this because this taps into my magical energy. So you are clarifying and setting magical boundaries for not only yourself, but those around you, because all day long you're Sarah, but the minute that you step into your sacred space to perform magic, you are now Agatha Moonraven. Okay. So that's what it's about. Clarity and boundaries for yourself or for others. There is a huge myth that I want to dispel here. Huge myth. I have heard this over 25 years from so many different people. Whenever we get into a subject of witchy name or a conversation about witchy names, I get it all the time. Well, don't you have to be gifted or given your magical name? And I'm like, by whom? And they're like, oh, by like a high priest or a high priestess, or doesn't a god or a goddess have to give you your magical name? No, that is false. You can give yourself a magical name. You can piece together, you could do one of those memes online or one of the little generators online, which tells you to put together like the color of your underwear with the first street name or your pet's name. And bam, that's your magical name. Who knows? Do whatever you want, but no, you can give yourself a name 100%. And that leads me directly into how to choose a magical name or how to create one, because you do not have to be given a magical name by a higher power. You don't have to have it come to you in a dream. None of that is a necessity. If you want a magical name, create one, make one yourself, call yourself whatever the fuck you want. Okay. So how do you choose a magical name? First and foremost is intuitively. It has to resonate with your energy, okay? If this whole time I've been saying Agatha Moonraven and you get goosebumps every single time I've said it, take it as your own. I don't care. It's not I don't have a magical name, so you're good. But you want to have it resonate with your energy. You want to have it tap into your witchy power. So it almost needs to be intuitive, just from the standpoint that when you come up with it, when you say it, when you hear it, it awakens your witchy self. It takes that inner witch and makes her dance and love and scream and, give you a big hug from the inside. Okay. So it has to awaken your intuition. It has to awaken your witchy energy. So it has to do that. Okay. Don't pick a boring name. Pick one that makes you excited. Pick one that makes you happy to tell other people if you want to tell them. Like, oh, hi, I'm Agatha Moonraven. And they're like, oh shit, that's a fun name. And you're like, yeah, I know, right? Like, you're proud. It makes you proud and it makes your witchy heart sing. Okay. You can ask for guidance and then remain open to dreams, symbols, synchronicities, things like that. So you would maybe light a candle, say, I want to choose a witchy name. I want a magical name. What can it be? Please send me, you're talking to your guides, your deities, your higher self. Please send me answer or symbolism in dreams or synchronicities or signs or symbols, and then just remain open for what comes. Okay. Choose things you love and put them together. You love the moon. You love ravens. You love Agatha all along. Bam, Agatha Moon Raven. It can be that easy. It really, truly can. Um, you can meditate on it. So you can set the intention before meditation that you are journeying to get your magical name. Okay. I would venture to say, I have not checked. I will check after the episode is done, but I would venture to say if you were to go to YouTube and type in magical name guided meditation, somebody's probably written it. Somebody's probably written one. So you could even do like a guided meditation to, find your witchy name. Ooh, that could be a good one. If you are listening or watching right now and you are in the Ink Spirit Coven, we just did a couple of months ago witchcraft paths, and there is a guided meditation to help you explore witchcraft paths in you. You can almost tweak that to set the intention, so that guided meditation, to tweak it to be like, I want a magical name. And then when you open up doors, there's objects there, or there's symbolism behind the doors to help you find your magical name. So if you're in the Ink Spirit Coven, go back a couple of months to the Witchcraft Types lesson, and then the Witchcraft Paths guided meditation, and listen to that one, because you could tweak that one. That's a very good one to tweak. You could use astrological influences. So for example, your zodiac sign, your sun, your moon, your rising, any type of numerology, if there's a numerology that really resonates with you, planets, so like planetary names, all of that. And then deity influences. I have met quite a few Rhiannons in my life who their government name is not Rhiannon. That's part of their magical name. I've met quite a few Morgans whose government name is not Morgan. That is their magical name. In fact, I've probably met more magical named Morgans than real Morgans in my life, being in the witchy community. So if you have deity influences, then by all means, ask them first. Like if it's someone you have had a relationship with for 20 years, but just ask them and say, this is my way of honoring you. But if you have never worked with the deity and then you decide to call yourself that, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. And that was an opinion, but I'm going to give you some more opinions now. Okay. So, this is where I'm going to put my 2 cents in. You can take it or leave it. Again, this is my podcast. These are my opinions. But just like I said, I wouldn't name myself after a deity if I don't have a relationship with that deity. I can say this. Over 25 years of being a witch, I have come across a lot of moon ravens. Like moon, which is why it probably stuck in my head because I had written this out. Like moon something, like something moon something, or moon something something, or something something moon. I've come across a lot of moons, and I've come across a lot of ravens. Okay, so raven something something, or something raven something, or something something raven, because it's always 3 names. I don't know if I've ever come across a witch that only had like 2 names or 1 name. It's always 3. Like Silver Raven Wolf. Anyway, and I think Raven Wolf is one, she's put it together, but anyway, I've come across a lot of them. Okay. So if you really resonate with moons and you really resonate with ravens, okay, I don't want to take that away from you, and I don't want to discourage you, but I do want to say, have some fun with it. Okay. For example, if I were to choose a magical name for myself, I would probably incorporate a different language. Now look, this is because of my background. I took 4 years of Latin in high school. So I really resonate with Latin. And then my spiritual path, the Avalonian tradition, is very heavily Celtic based. And then there's Welsh in there. So I could go the Irish Gaelic route. I could go the Welsh route, which is what I'm going to do here. And you guys, this is going to be the funniest shit ever. Okay, for example, the word raven in Latin is corvus. That's a little bit cooler. Can you imagine if your name, instead of now like Agatha Moonraven, was now Agatha Mooncorvus? Like, it just, that kind of sounds a little cooler, right? Gaelic, the raven in Gaelic is Bran, Bran. That's different. I definitely, again, unless you walk a Celtic path, I probably would not go Gaelic, Irish, or Welsh with choosing the name. But if you, a lot of us do go that route. So, and then Welsh, good Lord, you guys. Raven in Welsh is Kirgran. There's a rolling R in there. It's Kigran. Kigran? Please, if anybody who is fluent in Welsh is listening, please don't hate me. Please. I'm trying, okay? Except for the next one. So that was Raven. Moon. Latin is Luna, Lunae, Lunae, is the feminine for Luna. But it also, the E gets chopped off a lot. And then you just have Luna. The Gaelic is Gaelach. That's Gaelic for moon. I got that one. Okay, Gaelach. It's Gealach for those who are writing things. Gaelach. There's lots of phlegm in these Celtic-y Welsh languages. Anyway, the Welsh, not even gonna try it. Too hard. I can't even spell it. There was two L's, and the two L's in Welsh, they don't even make a Y sound. They don't make it makes no sense at all. So I'm not even going to try. The word moon in Welsh, you have fun Googling that, okay? And then clicking the little pronunciation, little speaker button, you have fun, because it was too much. I couldn't, my brain fried. So, have some fun. You know, if you spoke French, if you took French lessons, put some of your words in French and see what happens, you know? Have fun with it. I think there should be a lot of thought that goes into a magical name, and I really think you should have fun with it. Like, that's the biggest thing. Having fun in magic is what's going to make it powerful. So if you can have fun with your magical name as well, if it's something that makes you giggle, if it gives you affirmation bumps, you know, goosebumps, then that's what you want to do. But there's a lot of moons and a lot of ravens in the magical world. So you want to do something a little different. Take those words, put them into a different language, rearrange the letters, see if another word pops up. Have fun with it, okay? So to bring it all home today, if you can have a magical name, you don't have to have a magical name, okay? You can choose your name. And here's another fun thing that I think I've heard it in 25 years. You can change your magical name, 100%. You do not have to live with your magical name for the rest of your life, okay? And if you decide one day that it no longer resonates with you, you can change it, and you don't even have to go to the DMV or the Social Security office or anything, because it's just a magical name. You could do a little ceremony, maybe light another candle or go into meditation and tell your guides, Agatha Moonraven no longer suits me. From this point forward, will be going by this name, and turn it into Latin. Turn it into, you know, my name is Agatha Corvus Luna, or Luna Corvus. You know, go by that. But you can change it. You can share it, or you can keep it a secret. You could do both. But no matter what, the name you practice magic with should empower you. It should make you come alive. It should make your little witchy heart sing, and only share it with people who you do trust or in a magical setting. But it definitely, the name you practice magic under should empower you. Okay. So that's what I have for you all today. The bonus Patreon content for this week is just a really cute little worksheet, book a shadow page called Choosing My Magical Name. It's just some journal prompts. So even if you just want to have fun with it and see what comes up, because a magical name is something you could keep as far as like signing all of your things in your book of shadows with it, but you don't ever use it in person, could be that. Like I said, there's a sliding scale between using it in everyday life and Rumpelstiltskin. But yeah, it's just going to be a little worksheet on choosing your magical name. So bonus content, Patreon bonus content is for my paid Patreon tiers. The smallest one is just $5 a month. And that gets you the bonus content for every podcast as well as a shout out. So I want to thank Meredith for being a new member, paid Patreon member, and Wendy. Thank you for being a new paid Patreon member. You can head to patreon.com/inkedgoddesscreations to look at all the different tiers there. There's a couple of different tiers with different perks. So yeah, but I want to thank you all for listening to my podcast or watching it on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Yes, commenting is a big thing because it lets the algorithm know that you want to interact with me or that my content is cool enough to interact with. I do comment back. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time. Sometimes I don't get the notifications immediately. But even on social media, I post a little soundbite on Instagram and TikTok, so you can comment there. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Let me know if you have a magical name, or if you even want to share your magical name in public on social media. Don't feel pressured to, but if you want to, I would love to know what it is. But yeah, thank you all for being here, for listening, for giving me a platform to share my knowledge and my opinions. And I will see you all next week. Bye.